That's right. Well, welcome everybody to Conscious Cafe Global this morning, this evening, or wherever you are. We have a wonderful session today. And we're working truly global because we've got Paul Fenton-Smith, who's based in Sydney. Good evening to you, Paul, as we celebrate our morning here in the UK. Paul is a counsellor and clairvoyant. He's the author of 11 books, and the 12th is on the go. And some of the information we're going to be looking at today is from his new book, and also a book called Intuition: Keys to Unlocking Your Inner Wisdom. Such is Paul's passion and enthusiasm for this subject, which is really the world is opening up to more and more. He's often invited to be a guest speaker and often invited to be on television. He's been doing this for more than 40 years: psychic development, intuition, palmistry, clairvoyance, hypnotherapy, meditation. And in 1985, he set up the Academy of Psychic Sciences in Sydney, where he's now based. So he's also runs a private practice. This is a long period of time. He's one of these early adopters in this field of expertise. And we are so grateful to him spending time with us this morning. And this, he's not just going to give a talk, he's going to give a workshop. So you're going to be learning in this session. And afterwards, he's provided some handouts so that you can continue with your work, and you may choose to watch this video again. So this is going to be really productive. So a huge welcome to you, Paul. We welcome you with our hands, and I'm going to now spotlight you. Replace spotlight. I think you're there.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so welcome. I'd like to just start by outlining what we're going to do today. Okay, first I plan to show you 4 primary ways to access intuitive information. And I figured that if you're not strong on one, you're going to be strong on another. So in other words, everybody will have a chance to find something that they can develop or they already have skills in. Next, I'll take you on an intuitive treasure hunt. Now, this isn't a treasure hunt for gold bars or Easter eggs, but for opportunities. And I'm asking you to look for, and I'll show you later, an exercise you can do to find opportunities, particularly within frustrations or disappointments. And they're the things that we tend to recall from, because we get overwhelmed when we're disappointed, when we have setbacks, or when we feel frustrated, you know. And it's really important to be able to find opportunities in those situations. And so I'll cover that. Then I'll give a demonstration. I'll ask for a volunteer and demonstrate the process. And then we'll go off into breakout rooms, and you can try the process for yourself. Because I'm a firm believer that doing is learning. It's great to have theory, but when you try it out for yourself, 4 or 5 or 10 times, you start to get a feel of, yes, I could do this. In the notes that you'll receive when you receive your video, there are some notes on the steps of how to do this exercise as well. So you can write it down as we go. Chances are, when the notes arrive, you'll know it's all laid out for you. Okay, so let's start with the 4 ways to receive intuitive information, because I believe we're all born intuitive, and I think as we get educated at school, we're taught to favour the logical mind over instincts and intuition, and that's fine to work in the physical world. But I think that good decision making is a combination of intuition and logic. I think the two can dovetail into each other. You know, so I'll explore 4 primary ways, and most professional readers use 1 or 2 methods. No one uses all 4, but if you're wanting to get your skills up, you can actually try the 4 out and see which works for you best. Okay, different approaches suit different types of people and different types of readings. With practice, it's possible to specialize in one particular method. And I usually use one favorite method. I stick with it all the time because it works for me, and you'll find the same for yourself. So let's explore them in detail now. I'll just change my note page. The first method, it sounds deceptively simple. Okay, it involves allowing information to reach you. Where it gets complicated is you've got a busy mind. You've got 4 things on your mind. You're trying to get to do some shopping. You're trying to get back from lunch and get lunch, pick up lunch on the way back. You know you have to email someone, and there's a text you have to respond to. You've got all these things going through your mind. Where's your intuition? You can't hear it. You can't sense it. So being able to still your mind in order to receive information and interpret it, that takes practice. And I can tell you, when you do it for over and over and over again, it can be a point where you get to the point where you just take a deep breath and you switch. You switch from being busy in your mind to sensing, okay, if I'm trying to find Martin's place, it's a right-hand turn here, you know, to getting the information you need to get where you need to go in your life. Okay, so sometimes, for instance, when you're meeting somebody new, we're often so locked into remembering somebody's name, how firm is the handshake, all that sort of stuff. We forget to notice the information that we're receiving. We actually receive a lot of information. That first 5-10 seconds of a handshake, it's not even the physical touch, it's the energy of the person. You're standing in their energy space. When you stand in someone's energy, you can feel what's going on with that person. And that's why a lot of intuitive people, natural psychics, get very tired when they go shopping in a shopping centre, because they're in the energy of lots of other people, because their auric energy fields are often quite big. And so they get exhausted because everybody's worrying and they're picking it up. Interacting with other people, we're often trying to focus on what we want to achieve instead of being in the moment. So I'm going to ask you to be in the moment when we're doing some of these exercises, just to sense, what am I getting here? What's the information I'm receiving? And I do a lot of stuff online on Skype and FaceTime these days. And I thought initially it would be much harder than face-to-face, but actually it's not. Once you find that connection, and that connection really involves, in many cases, psychic cords. Now, these are energy cords that we form to other people very quickly, and they're done through desire. I want to know more about you. I want to know where you got that from. I want to know why you're successful and I'm not. And so you're forming cords all the time. Most cords will fade away after a few days, but cords where there's a lot of desire, you're meeting someone at work and you're really secretly in love with them, you'll form a cord that's very, very strong, and that could last decades, even if you never act on that relationship. So some cords you really don't want to build and to maintain. I'll come back to that in a little while anyway. Okay, I'll give an example. When clients arrive for reading, sometimes the reading begins when we sit down together at the table. They might fill out a form, put their keys away, turn the phone off, and then the reading begins. Other times, you open the door and the reading's already started, and sometimes it started and you don't even realize it. So I'll give an example of a woman arrived. She looked a little bit flustered, and I invited her into my reading room, and I said, I want you to take a seat on the black chair. There's a blue chair and a black chair. And she said they're both black. I thought, oh, this is interesting. This could get out of hand very quickly. You're disagreeing with the clairvoyant before you've had your reading. Like, surely you'd wait to the end so you're going to get a good reading. You don't get them offside before you start the process. And I said, okay, how about you sit on the black one? Because one of them was black and had a blue covering right through the chair, but it still had a black frame. So basically, as this woman sat down, I started asking what's going on with her, and I could feel the resistance. So she booked a session, and it could have been anything. It could have been she looked at me and thought, you're too old, you're too young, you're too this, you're too that. We're close to the same age. And I don't know, but she just had this sense of resistance. So I thought, let's not play with the resistance. Let's look at how I can give her, with humility, the best reading I can give her, despite the fact that she's got that sense of, I want to get out of here, And as I started talking, it came to me what it was. She's sick of men telling her what to do. Woman in her mid-50s, all her life she's had men telling her what to do, and she's gone and booked a male clairvoyant who's going to start to tell her the same thing. So I realized I had to pull back, make no statements, ask everything as a question. Do you find that sometimes you feel frustrated when this happens? Do you find that you're doing this sometimes? Is it likely that you would be, and so I had to really, it was like very thin ice when you're skating, and the end of the reading, she mellowed a little bit. And she'd asked about her job. She was being ignored in her work. And I said to her, look, it's unfortunate, but you're part of the woodwork now. You need to train up. You need to move on. And 2.5 years later, she came back for another reading. She had trained up. She had moved on. She was happy with her new job. And a very different woman walked through the door. It's like, you're the person who didn't boss me around last time. And I thought, whoa, what a difference. Just because I didn't push hard, 20 years before that, I would have pushed hard to get a few things right and probably put her off in doing so. So the information's reaching all the time. It's just that when this particular woman arrived, I was busy bringing her into the room, making sure that showing her where she needed to sit and that sort of thing. I was doing the functional stuff without saying, what do you need now before we get into the room? And that just taught me that sometimes when the reading begins early, you just have to be delicate. You have to meet the need, whatever the need is, right there and then. Okay, with experience, it's possible to allow information within your immediate vicinity to reach you so that events outside the room don't reach you. In other words, you narrow your focus down. It's possible to do that, isn't it? You're watching TV, someone's having a conversation in the background on the phone. You tune out from the TV to the conversation, you tune back to the TV, you tune out to the dog barking, you tune back. You bring your awareness all over the place all the time, you know? And so in exercises, and it'll be in this exercise we'll do later, the simplest way is to focus on the person before you. Forget about yourself. You become almost invisible to yourself, and they become your absolute focus. It's incredible how much information you can pick up with somebody if they are your sole focus. It's also incredible how quickly your focus can shift back to yourself. I'm uncomfortable, I need to shift now. I need to do this. I want to scratch myself. Where's my tea? You're thinking of 100 different things. Each time you're distracted by a sound or a memory or a thought, you need to bring your awareness back to the room. And it's a meditation technique. So for those of you who do meditation, you get familiar with that technique of saying, I'm aware of the dog barking, and I release this now. I'm aware of a man rattling a squeaky ladder, and I release this now. Just releasing so that you can come to that sense of stillness. So with practice and repetition, it's possible to minimize internal and external distractions, to be in the present moment, because that's where your information is. When you're in the moment, when you're focused on the other person, information flows more smoothly. And then it's just a conversation. You can just talk and talk and talk for an hour. There's no struggle anymore, you know? You might ask questions, and I have a habit when I'm giving readings, for instance, to say, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm seeing this and this and this, you know, and it'll either make sense to the client or it doesn't. Sometimes 2 or 3 years later, they come back, and other times you never hear from them again. You don't know if it will ever make sense again. So when I'm teaching advanced classes, I say, when a reading is finished, you never know if you've been accurate or not. You really don't know. And the client won't know for maybe some years, you know. So when receiving information this way of just allowing information to reach you, it's essential to maintain a strong boundary so you don't get overwhelmed by information. If I'm forgetting myself, I'm forgetting my own boundary, I could get immersed in the energy of you if I'm reading for you, and that could be overpowering because you might be going through some incredibly strong things at the moment, and I could get swept up into that. So you still got to have an anchor, something that holds you back into yourself. It's also necessary to maintain focus so that if the client asks a question about a situation you're describing, you can return to an image, you can go back, you can expand, you can go forward an hour, back an hour, and that sort of thing if you need to. This means that you need to minimize dross or negative emotional energy in the room, in yourself from previous clients. So if, for instance, you're trying to practice an intuitive exercise and you've had an argument with somebody 15 minutes ago, you're going to need to release yourself from that in order to be accurate with this. Does that make sense? I hope it does at any rate. Okay, I keep you can see behind me here, a bowl of water in the room. And it's salt water, and I change it regularly. And the reasoning is that water, particularly salt water, absorbs emotional energy. So when clients come for readings or when friends are coming to ask you for advice about something and they let down their burden, they will release all of emotional energy into the room. And you don't want that in the room all the time, especially if you're in a professional setting or if you have a friend that's going through a lot of trauma at the moment, that sort of thing, because it's like smoking a cigarette, 1 cigarette a day in a room where you never open the window. And if you do this over months or years, the windows and the walls become yellow. I've seen it because I had a teacher years ago who used to smoke. She'd light one on the end of the other, and the room you came out and you smell like you're in a pub. But that was the 80s, and things have changed a bit since then. Okay, so when you're more familiar with the process, it's possible to open up your awareness progressively and to be more focused on which part of who you're focusing on, what areas, how far you're taking your energy field. Doing it suddenly can be overwhelming. Be patient. If people who rush for psychic development get themselves into trouble. And I give an example. In 1991, I was in a psychic circle here in Sydney. We were learning from someone. She was a very good teacher. And there was a sense of competition in this room. You know, Sydney's a very competitive town, you know, and people were trying to be the best. I'm thinking, we don't have the same starting point. We won't have the same finishing point. Why are we competing, you know? But at the end of 1 year in this group, 3 of those people had been in lockdown psych wards because they'd pushed themselves so hard they lost their grip on reality. So I always say slow is better. And 2 of them had children under 5. They're suddenly away for 2-4 weeks at a time, on heavy medications under a psychiatrist's remit. It's not a good thing to do. Take it slowly. Take it in a way that you can cope with it. Things then don't get overwhelming for you. Think of it as standing at the edge of a lake. You cup your hands, you drink some water. You're not diving into the cold water. You're just drinking a little bit of it. If when you're practicing an exercise, you're confused with what you're saying to the client, just bring it into relationship with them. If I see something that doesn't make sense to the client, I ask, why am I seeing this? This doesn't make sense to me. And if I say it doesn't make sense to me, I'm allowed to say what I'm seeing, because it may not make sense to me, it may not make sense to them. But if I'm saying this is right and you have to accept that, that's not going to sit well with somebody, Not everything makes sense until it actually happens. Sometimes an image requires a question before you think you can describe what you see. So I might be describing a scene and they might say it's so-and-so, or it's this, and it might be something else. So if you're not sure, you just say what you can see and you let that go. So let's look at number 2 method. This is tracing information threads. And so for this, I'm going to need to bring up my, where is it here? My slides, and I don't know how to put it onto your screen. So Gina, can you help me with this?
You can share screen.
Okay, right, let's just have a look here.
Because you're a co-host, so you should have the share screen. And then when you do that, you've got all your screens on your computer, and then you choose the one that's got your PowerPoint or Keynote.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
okay.
Otherwise I've got it for you. Okay.
Can you see it now or not?
Yeah, no, you haven't shared the screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
How's that?
It's black, but it's coming. Yes, we got it now. You can do full.
Okay. So this is what's people who can see psychic chords. This is what the chords look like. I've made them colourful, but they're not colourful. They're normally white. Okay, and so essentially, if this person's my client, or even if you're in a conversation with a friend, and you start to notice chords or information threads that you could call them. So she has one to her throat chakra, one to the heart center, one to the solar plexus, and they could have different significance for her. So traditionally, I would say towards the throat, somebody wants you to listen to them, like be a counselor for them. Someone wants you to speak up on their behalf. He didn't bring the omelette the way I like it. Could you ask the waiter to bring it back? I'm too nervous. I can't ask him. So they're asking you to be assertive on their behalf. From the heart center, it's somebody who loves you or wants you to love them. I'm really needy, and can you give me everything that I need? And from the solar plexus area, it could be somebody who's being assertive on your behalf or asking you to be strong for them. It's a power center. So these are people who are natural leaders and organizers. But let's not look at what the chords mean. Let's look at where the chords go. So with tracing threads of information, first you're going to need to look to see them. And before you can see them, often you can feel them. So if you have a friend you're able to practice with in person, then you would have them sit or lay down and you'd run your hand up over them about 10, 15 centimeters away from the body, and you'll be able to feel them for the kinesthetic types. Eventually, you're able to see them in meditation with practice. And if you follow those chords or threads, they'll tell you all the people that person's linked to. So each chord or thread could be a friend, an old work colleague, an ex-partner, their children, that sort of thing. And this is why it's so hard to lie to your mum, because she made you, so she's got a chord to you. And she'll have that chord all your life. So, if you've got an intuitive mum, as I had, she'd say, anything you need to tell me today? And when you think you've squared it away, she says, anything else you need to tell me? And then you think, oh no, she's got that look, And so with psychic chords, I'll just bring it down another screen to show you energy chords. So in this situation, you've got a chord coming from the front of the heart chakra to the back. And when a chord arrives into the back of the heart chakra, it usually means, I really love you, I really care for you, but I have trouble expressing it in words. These are the stoic fathers who say, oh, you did well at uni, that's great. And they say nothing else, but they'll tell all the neighbours, they'll tell their friends at work, they'll tell everyone when you're not there. But they can't give you any credit because they don't want to give you a swelled head, And so for psychic chords, most psychic cords are formed. Firstly, a clairvoyant forms a psychic cord with every client that sits down with them. And that's why that first 2 or 3 minutes, sometimes if they haven't formed the cord immediately, the reading isn't good. It warms up. But the moment you get that cord, you've got it, bang, and then you have to let it go, so that when your next client sits down with you, you're not still connected to the old one. And this is a tip I always give to people who are two friends who are coming for readings together, one after the other. I always say, if you're going to do this, make sure you go first, because if the clairvoyant doesn't disconnect from the first person, the second person continues the first person's reading. So if you went first and the other person who went after you for a reading didn't make sense of their reading, borrow the CD or the recording and listen to it. It's probably your life explained even further. Okay. With psychic cords, you can have psychic cords also from yourself. Sometimes in a reading situation, you have, I'll just bring this on, there we go. So the reader is the man in this image. He's listening to a spirit guide, and he's got a cord to the client as well. So he's asking his guide, can you tell me some information about this person? He's then relaying the information. Now you've got a problem with your ex-partner, he won't leave you alone, and this is the way to handle that, or this is what's going on, And so he might use the tarot, as I've got here on the table. He might use any sorts of tools, but often the tools are important until you get the link. And I learned this actually in London in 1988. I'd been there for about 5 months in a psychic centre, and I had about 3 weeks to go before I went home to Australia. And so I figured, I'm going home now. I'm probably not coming back again to read here, so I can say anything I like. And so I was liberated. And I said, at the end of readings, I'd say, just for 5 minutes, look, I'm picking up something else, but I'm really not sure about it. Could be wrong. What does the client say? Tell me anyway. So I'd then launch into what I could pick up, and I've got the caveat. I've said, I'm not sure about this. So the clients can throw all that last 5 minutes away, and often it wasn't recorded, because they'd have the cassette then, because it was back in those days when we had cassettes. And it was amazing, because within 3 days of that, a woman turned up and she'd been crying, her mascara was running. And I said, are you okay? She said, well, I've just come from a wake. You said something strange to a man in a reading a few days ago, where you said, why do they give you all the flowers after you've died that they never gave you in your lifetime? She said, I described a grand piano filled with flowers, a sandwich, a glass of wine. This guy's thinking, oh, these flowers, we should have given to our friend then in life, not afterwards. I know it's good to honor the dead, but at the same time, it would just be a nicer memory, And so I was thinking, whoa, this actually works, because I was able to get out of the way, get the logic out of the way, and just start talking. Okay, and I always suggest to advanced readers that they do that. Do a 5 minutes thing at the end, and if you're really not sure about it, you don't record it. Okay. Clairvoyants who work with guides or work with their higher self will always form a cord straight away to their guides or the higher self for readings. It becomes a habit, it becomes a pattern. This allows the reader to silently ask a specific question and then relay the information back to the client. Because clients come with situations that readers are not familiar with at all. And so if someone's asking about making a decision in high finance with day trading and shorting stocks, I don't know enough about that, and so I need to get some information from somebody else. The simple process of tracing threads, put it to you in a different way. Everybody would have experienced this at some stage, where you think about your friend and you wonder what they're doing, and then the phone rings and it's them. Or you think about your friend, you reach for the phone and it's them, And it's that situation, and some people look at it as telepathy, but it's still using a cord of energy. The simple process of tracing threads involves filling the mind while searching for a single thread of information. Okay. Once a suitable stream has been found, it involves tracing that strand to its origin to explore an issue or a situation in real detail. So I'll give you an example of this. In a recent reading, 50-year-old client Emma asked about her health. Okay. After explaining that I'm not medically trained and I can't diagnose, and that she needs to see a medical practitioner or someone trained in alternate healing to be able to go any further in anatomy and physiology, I just scanned down her body. Just a simple scan. So I'll scan down the physical body muscles, I'll look at the bloodstream, look at the nervous system, and start from the head and work my way down. You've got to start somewhere. I figure the head's an easy place to start. Okay. So I'm scanning down through the head, the neck, the throat, down to the feet. And so my attention was drawn to the upper neck, and there was a tension in and around about the third vertebrae from the top. So without any conscious analysis, I knew the image came up was a car accident injury many years ago. And so I said, I see some tension in the upper neck. It seems to be a result of a sudden shock, physical shock several years ago. So I didn't say car accident. I didn't say what the shock was. I just said it seems to be a result of a shock some years ago. And she said yes. She'd been in a car accident. She'd had a sore neck for 3 or 4 months after that. It settled down and it went on. But settling down is not the same as being fixed, And so then I moved my awareness down to the throat, and I saw in the throat I could see a chemical. It was just something she was eating, and it was lining the whole system of her body, getting into her blood system, lining her body from the inside, And I thought, what is this? I asked, and I was shown it was something she drank regularly. I couldn't tell what the liquid was though. So I'm thinking, what's she taking into her system that's not agreeing with her system? So rather than just saying you're taking something that you're allergic to or doesn't agree with you, I thought the best way would be to ask it as a question. So I asked, do you drink coffee or tea? And she said, she confirmed that she drank coffee. I asked if she drank it white, and she said she added a dash of milk. I had a look, and I noticed I know what dairy intolerance looks like, and this wasn't it. Okay. I inquired if she added sugar or artificial sweetener, and she said no. And then I explained, look, I'm seeing you drinking something. It's lining your system. I don't know what it is, but it's a chemical. It doesn't look natural, And she said, I know what it could be. She said, I have a hot chocolate, 1 a day. She said, I'm allowing myself in the afternoon a hot chocolate, and it's my treat. I thought, that's good. Okay, now, is it sweet? She said, yes. Now, anybody who knows chocolate, if you've been to Ecuador or places like that, chocolate unadulterated is bitter. It's dry and it's bitter. It doesn't have a sweetness. So obviously it's been sweetened with something. So I said, what do you think it's sweetened with? Well, it says no sugar. So I asked her to look at what the ingredients were. And so she was able to then, I asked, could you make a hot chocolate? If you really like it, could you just put some hot milk together, or soy milk or rice milk, whatever you have, and put some dark chocolate into it and make yourself a fresh, hot, sweet chocolate? Obviously it would have some sugar in it, but not that chemical, if it was possible for her to do that. And then I moved down to the lungs, and with the lungs, I could see old scarring, but it was old. It was like 20 years old. And I asked if she smoked, and she said no. So I thought, it is a result of smoking. And I asked if her parents smoked, and she said, yes, they did. And so she grew up in a household where she was breathing in that secondhand smoke. So then as you work your way down, you better see parts of the body and see how they look. And this is a scanning thing that can be done through that first cord or energy thread. And it can also be done eventually just by looking clairvoyantly. So as a reader, it's important to remember, I can't change what's going on with this person. I can only observe. Every decision, every action, every reaction determines their future. So essentially, every decision we make today is shaping tomorrow. And so all we do as clairvoyants, and you'll do if you're practicing the same work, is witness the witnesses. So the third method of retrieving information is spiritual guides. Now, limitations with this and opportunities. The opportunity is a guide traditionally is somebody who's in between lifetimes at the moment and is ready to help others. And that's great. The limitation is they can't help you with anything they don't know. So they're not necessarily more spiritually advanced than you are, not necessarily more aware of realms and other things, that sort of thing. Instead, these are people doing their best, but they have their own limitations. So you might give some advice using your guides, but you wouldn't give too much advice where people are investing heavily, buying a business or taking a risk with having a child if some illness runs in the family and they're not going to get that child checked before it's born, that sort of thing. Difficult decisions, difficult circumstances sometimes. So contacting guides can be time consuming. This would be something you'd start off doing in a meditation, asking for a guide, asking for information. And I always say when you get information through meditation for yourself, particularly not for somebody else, ask a test question. And so if I'm having a meditation about, say, this year, say I'm looking for someone to work on a project with me that's creative towards the end of this year, will I successfully complete this project? So I go into meditation, I ask this question, they give me an answer. It looks good. The person's first name will be this, or they'll look like this, or I'll meet them through this way. Okay, that's excellent. Now, I ask the test question. I ask, can you tell me something will happen to me in the next 48 hours? Something specific. And they tell me that. I come out of the meditation, I write down everything, I type it all into my iPad. So I write it all down so that I've got a record, and then I wait 48 hours. If what they have said to me happens exactly the way they've said it, then I know the rest is accurate. I don't have to wait till the end of the year to know this is right or this is wrong. If it doesn't happen, I know I was uncentered. I throw away that, I go into meditation, I try again. So in other words, it's a circuit breaker. You don't spend 4 or 5 or 10 years waiting for an opportunity that isn't coming because you were uncentered that day. And I still have days when I'm like that, this many years into it. I have days because when it's about yourself, you're either biased, or I find with myself, I feel a bit guilty asking for myself, and so I get distracted easily. And so I always ask the test question, and they're very specific with me. So some years ago, I put this in one of my books. I had a course coming up on a Sunday, intro tarot course, and it was beginning 3 Sundays. And so this was the Wednesday before the Sunday. And they said to me, you'll have, actually, no, it was 2 weeks away. The course was 2 weeks away. They said to me, you have 5 bookings by Sunday night for that course. And I got 3 on Sunday night at midnight, before midnight, and 2 on Monday. So that was a no. Because Sunday ends at midnight in my time zone. So then I knew that my meditation and the questions I'd asked before that were inaccurate. So you just don't take it personally. You just start meditating again. And eventually, with practice, you get to a point where you know when a meditation's good. You know when it's fantastic, you're getting good information, because 45 minutes feels like 2 minutes. You're still, and I've got a restless mind. And when I get that still, it's just absolute bliss. And for people who've got that racy body, racy mind, I think, or I've discovered, I have that sort of mind. I have the best meditations after I've mown the lawn, I've been up on the roof cleaning, I'm exhausted, I'm physically exhausted. I can't resist anymore. And so I get into the deepest meditation possible. So that might just be something for 1 or 2 of you that have that sort of racy mind that need to slow it down a little bit. The thing with guides is they're a powerful source of information for personal development as well. They can give you information about, for instance, this food you're eating is not good for you. Everyone else might be fine on it, but it's not good for you, And if you get stuck with something, what am I doing that's wrong? They can point out sometimes, have you noticed you're doing this? And that's getting in the way of this. It's not so good for face-to-face readings necessarily until you learn to connect with guides instantly, until you just take a breath, and I'll just do it in a reading. I'll just take a breath and say, are you there? Great. I know I need some information about Lisa, and she's just sat down. She's got a hold of a question. She started with this one, but I need some information about that one and the next one, because I feel like that's not the only question. And then they can start giving me information. But it starts from meditation. You build that out. The final method, the 4th method, is the higher self approach. And this is quite a tricky one. So this is for experienced meditators only, really, because contacting your higher self, it's not easy. So let's just explain. The higher self is the part of you that's read your life story to the end. And we're not talking about this life, I'm talking about all the lives. So this is the part of you it's like I've seen the movie to the end. I know how it finishes, so I'm not so worried about when things take a bad turn. I know how this is going to unravel at the end, And so your higher self is that spiritually evolved part of yourself that has more of the answers than you've got, and understands the struggle you've been through, because it's part of you. So it knows how hard it's been. So it doesn't have to have compassion because it has empathy. And the difference with compassion and empathy is empathy comes from being in the same circumstances, having the exact same feeling, the exact same sensations. And because it's part of you that's had that, it knows what you're going through. So it usually requires good meditation to contact your higher self, and being with your higher self is a nice feeling, because you get to see yourself in a much more perfect form. You get to see yourself, you're thinking, God, is that what I'm aiming for? That is amazing, you know? And for me, it's somebody who's got a still mind. I'm thinking, wow, I'll get there. I've got this rabbit of a mind that jumps all over the place, you know, which is great for invention. It's not so good for linear thought, you know? And but when I see my higher self in meditation, I just know I will get that sense of discipline over the mind. It just takes time, I guess. Again, after a session when you've asked your higher self for information, you need to write down everything, because you think you remember it, you just won't. You just won't. I come across things that I've written 10, 15 years ago and thought, oh, this has actually happened exactly as it's described. It just took 4 years longer, you know, and those sort of things. So if nothing's recorded, most of what's seen or heard is soon forgotten, especially when you have another meditation, another one after that. It's the hard part is you're exhausted, you have your best meditation because you're exhausted. Now you just want to turn over and go to sleep. But no, instead you've got to sit up for 10 minutes and just write down what you, but that 10 minutes is worth it. Now I'm just going to show you one more. I've written a book about psychic cords. That's what the cover looks like. It's a print on demand book in the UK. So I think some of the big bookstores will have it. You can order it in. Because it's a reference book, it is actually an ebook as well, but because it's a reference book, you might want it as a reference book. I'll let you in on a secret. Don't loan it to anyone. 36 people have told me they've loaned this book to friends and never seen it again. In fact, the lady the book's about, who was based in London that I studied with back in 91, I sent her 2 copies 20 years apart, and both copies were borrowed within a couple of days, and she's never seen them again, you know? And so I'm afraid to send her another one because I know it's just going to go AWOL. Somebody wrote to me recently saying they'd borrowed it from the library, said they'd lost it, paid the fine to keep the book. I'm thinking, why would you steal a spiritual book? It doesn't make any sense to me, you know? Okay, so any questions before we go forward?
Paul, do you want to change the screen so we can see
yeah,
people?
I can do that. I can get rid of this. Okay.
Unless you need those questions, and we can see people either put a hand up. I'm going to do big view. Somebody might want to type a question. Oh, there's a hand up here. Simone has a question. Ask to unmute. Okay, Simone.
Hiya, thank you for holding this space this morning. Lovely to connect. It was just about the decision making, really. So I messaged you on Instagram, so yeah, that's me. Who messaged you earlier this morning?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So so if you want to volunteer when we do the demonstration, perhaps we could do this, because have you got a question about what I've talked about so far, or are you wanting to look at an issue and I can help you find the opportunity within that issue? Because that's the next section, but I've got to give the theory before we can do that demonstration.
Yeah, I can wait for that. But yeah, it's just about what you said about energy exchange when you first meet somebody. So I was just wondering, do you always trust that? Because sometimes I've tried to ignore that, and then later I found out it is the case. You know, if I felt someone's energy has been a bit off, or it's like when I worked in a school once, I remember thinking there's just something I can't quite put my finger on with this lady, and it turned out it was the case. But sometimes I think with intuition, especially in the Western world, we're told that, like it's not as powerful. It's like we have to rationalize all the time. And I did speak to my family about it when I got home, and they said to me, well, just give it some time. Maybe it doesn't feel right now, but you could warm to her or something. But yeah, it just never happened for me. That's
okay.
Yeah.
So intuition is like a muscle. You need to practice. You need to practice all the time. But you're getting opportunities to practice all the time too. I did it with my son years ago. We were waiting at the airport for his mum. She's English, and she was flying back from UK to Australia. And so it's a long way to the airport, and they don't like you. I didn't want to park in the car park because I thought it's like $60 an hour or something, and you're going to be stuck in there for hours, especially if the plane's late. So we're parked in a side street, and there's traffic going past. And I said to him, I bet that the next car is going to be a blue Ford. No, it's a taxi. It's taxi goes straight past. Right, now he's won one and I've won. I've got to win one. So now we're playing tennis. Now we're being competitive, and we just started guessing and guessing and guessing until eventually we were getting them right. You know, it took about 6-7 minutes until we tuned ourselves, and he was just thinking of it as a game where I've got to beat my dad, you know, which is great, you know. But I started getting competitive too, thinking, wait a minute, this is my job. I should be good at this, you know. And so any exercise you get to practice that's not about tuning into people who don't know who you are or want to in their lives, but is actually about just noticing things around you, that's okay. With boundaries and trespassing, I'm always saying to people, do not tune into people unless you're invited to. So, for instance, I'm not intuitive when I leave my office. That's it. I'm just like everybody else. I'm just getting on with my life, because if you start opening up, you're going to be opening up in public places to a lot of bad energy, a lot of worry, a lot of stress, a lot of things you just don't want to be part of, you know. So you've got to be careful about that. But essentially, it's like a muscle. The more you practice it, the more you use it, the better it's going to get for you. If I could have you back on screen for a second, just have a look, Simone.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Looking for
Can I just get you to hold your hand up to the camera? Because what you're describing in palmistry terms is Pluto. Pull it back, pull it back, pull it back towards you. Yeah, you've got it. See, it's really full down there. Okay, down the bottom of the hand. So just pull your sleeve up a bit. And I'm talking about this 10-cent piece size, or 10p pence. See, it's very full. And what it means is, for people who have this strong in their hands, that first 30 seconds, they know if they can trust you or not. They've got an invisible line around them, and if they say, I can't trust you, and they put you on the outside of the line, they watch. They're like detectives. They're just watching like a journalist to see where, and when you slip up, bang, you know. And that's the mum you don't want to have, because she says, I don't trust that friend of yours. And when 6 years later, when your friend slips up, I told you. You know, they got that sort of instinct about them, and it's animal intuition. It's actually instinctive.
So is it a good thing or not then? I'm just...
Well, it is, because then you're, if you don't overlook that sensation in meeting someone, first date, that sort of thing. If you're getting a sensation that this person is not to be trusted, not to be swayed by the promise or the words or the charisma, trust that little alarm. You know? Because what that Pluto intuition does, it taps into the shadow side of the person straight away, and that's a bit scary. It's all, you know, it's just one of those things. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So anyone else got a question?
Well, Sarah has a question, and another lady does. So Sarah, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you, Paul. I'd like to ask a question about using the tarot, and what category you think that falls into, because I have sort of mixed. I haven't really practiced consistently enough with it, so I'm just not sure whether it will suit me or how best to use it. You know, if you could say something about
right. That. So I studied palmistry, first of all. 1978, I studied palmistry. A friend of mine enrolled him in a course in palmistry to keep her from getting mugged at night. I went along, 3 weeks into it, she's talking about stiff and flexible thumbs. See how my thumbs, they're quite flexible, like they're on a spring. And you'll find them a lot in England, because Celtic people have flexible thumbs. Celtic and the Southern Italians, so Latin and Celtic people. And I worked for about 8 months in a little tiny shop. It's now a key cutting place, that's how small it is. And it was 2 tables, 2 readers, tarot reader and me, a palmist. And we worked 60 hours a week, and there were sometimes we'd go the 10-hour shift without seeing a single person. So out of boredom, he taught me the tarot and I taught him palmistry. And he said, I can teach you the tarot. I said, why? If I come back next week, I'm going to get different cards. And I watched, as some people did. And at one particular lady, she would come at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. So I'm thinking that was a day off, that sort of thing. And she'd have a reading. He would say to her, the man with the dark hair's left, he's not coming back. Yes, he was very tight with money. There's a blonde-haired man coming, he's quite soft, he's quite gentle. He'll look after you. Now, he's not going to keep you in the financial stability that you're used to with the other man, but you have to grow a bit with that, you know. But he's going to look after you. He's going to be very tender, very soft to it. He'll look after your heart. Next week, okay, there's a blonde-haired man coming to replace the man that left you before. He was a bit tight, that man that left you. He had to say the same thing, because she came 7 weeks in a row, And she asked the same questions, and he said, I'm running out of ways to say this. I said, I thought you only had 5 stories and I've heard them all, because I just knew what he's going to say next. He's talking about the past, the present, the future. He's going through this reading. Now, by week 8, she stopped coming. Either she ran out of money, she met Mr. Blonde, or she heard what he had to say, and I took it in and thought, it's okay, there will be somebody else for me. So I think it made me realize it's time for me to learn the tarot. And he tricked me into it. So he told me all the meanings of the cards, and I said, I still don't have to learn this. He said, right, if I lay out 7 cards, and this was the past, the present, and the future, could you tell me a story? I love storytelling. So I said, all right, okay, this is your life. I told him the story. He said, yeah, that's what's happening in my life. I said, no, I wasn't reading the tarot. I was just telling, yes, of course you were, And then he gave me some information about some of the things I'd said, and I was telling a story, but I was telling him his story, And so I think there are 2 ways with the tarot. He was a mathematician, so he only used logic and rational meanings of the cards, and you can still give good reading. But I do it differently. I lay it out, I start giving the meanings, and off I go into intuition. I come back and I keep going, and I jump. In fact, I do an exercise in a masterclass tarot where I say, I'm going to give a reading to a stranger. I want you to tell me when I jump into intuition, when I jump back, and they get to know, because I look away. When I'm hearing or seeing information, I'm looking away to my right, and I'm seeing images. That's what. So they're watching for that, trying to get it all down, So you could do it if you wanted to learn card meanings, just practical, rational card meanings. You can do it that way. Or if you want to add intuition to it, and remember what I said earlier, you just give the reading. At the end, you say, I'm picking up some information, but I might be wrong. It's up to you if you want to go further.
Right. So you mean you can learn... Sorry. So what you're saying is you can learn the established card meanings, and you can stick with that, with the layouts or the spreads, or you can do it by like just whatever, like almost word association.
I think it's really good to learn the card meanings first, to have the basis of it, because when I worked in London, there was a lady there, a brilliant medium. She was really good, but she had bad days. And on one day she came downstairs. She had a flat above where I lived. We were in West End in London, and she plonked a crystal ball on the table. Said, I've talked a load of rubbish today, she said. I'm off to bed. And she went upstairs. It was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And she still had 2 more clients, and I had to give them clairvoyant readings. And I said, I've never given a clairvoyant reading before. This was 1988. And she said, look, do your 7 card layout around it, and just look at the crystal ball every now and again. I'm thinking, this is outrageous. We're pretending to people now, but eventually I learned how to do that. It was long after that though. And I looked at her as she left and went upstairs and thought, don't be that. If you don't have basic skills, palmistry, tarot, astrology, other things to fall back in which you can give a reasonable reading on a bad day, then don't do it, or else cancel your thing on a bad day. And in the UK, I've noticed they sometimes call psychics sensitives, and they are very sensitive people. Sensitive people have bad days. And I know on a good day, this woman was really good. Just on a bad day, some people lost their money, and I thought, I've got a strong sense of responsibility. And I think this is not something to be played with. Give them the best you can give them. So it may not be the same every day, but you've held your end of the bargain up. You give them the best you can. So if you're practicing to start out, you'd start out with logical meanings. You'd start out with free readings. Then you'd be swapping haircuts and lunches for readings. And I did that for about 2 or 3 years. You won't believe how many lunches, how many dinners, and how many bad dinners I had, and things like that. And off you go. People are ready to barter anything, and off they go. In fact, it's what I do when I start a new healing center. And I normally say, these are the things I do. I'm happy to offer all the practitioners a free session within 30 days. And usually that's a great way for practitioners to have a session, realize what you like, and then they're telling people. They've seen 15 clients. They say, listen, I had a session with this guy. I couldn't believe it. It was great, And it's all the publicity you need, And then they often swap sessions back with me, and I learned, right, you want to see this guy? He's a brilliant osteo, I think he'll fix this issue with you, And off you go. So all I'm asking is, can you practice using the logical meanings? And they're not flimsy meanings. You look at some books. My last tarot book came out last year. It's 550 pages. I thought, I'm going to put everything I've got into this book because I don't want to run another one. I'm up to there with the tarot, so many years. So can you do that? Can you give it a try? Because I think you're going to be better at it than you think.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That's very helpful, Paul.
Okay, who is
So
next?
Paul, we're five to the hour, 35 minutes to go. We've got one more question from Violet. We could take that now, or we could move into
I think let's move into the next thing. And we'll come
deal
back
with
to
that question later if Violet's still got that. So we'll move on,
All right.
Violet. And
So let's try the treasure hunt section now. Okay, so it's a thing I'm learning about at the moment, and that is the key benefit for developing intuition is to notice opportunities. If you take nothing else away from today, take this, because this to me is the thing I'm most excited about, because it will change your life. It's already changed mine. And I'm thinking, I always test things with myself, and then I run classes and test them with other people, and then I write about them. You know, it's the only way to do it. And they're always for selfish reasons. If I can learn how to do this, it's going to make my life better. Oh, they might want to learn this too. So I say that children are often very observant. And I'll give you an example of this. Each Easter, we have a 17-acre park just behind our house. And we're just a house above the park. So you drop down 20 feet, there's this enormous park. And every Easter, a couple of busloads of kids, school kids, turn up on Easter Sunday. And there's a treasure hunt for Easter eggs. So what happens is the buses pull up, 2 or 3 adults come out and they put eggs all over the park, you know, tucked away in the park, because there are trees everywhere. And then you hear screaming and laughter and everyone's running around, and then the laughter goes quiet, they all get back on the bus and they go home again. And then I go to the edge of the fence and I look around the park hunting for it. There's always one egg wedged in a tree, and it's going to fade away there. It's a bit sad. Now, I'm dairy intolerant, so I'm not going to eat a milk chocolate egg, you know, and you just watch this fading away there. It's a bit sad watching it, the egg that didn't get found, you know, and that's actually a metaphor for this, the opportunity that didn't get found, you know. And so kids have got good eyesight. They're usually pretty observant, you know, especially when they're competing with other kids for a short supply of something, you know. So opportunities exist around us daily, but many are concealed beneath work, commitment, frustration, disappointment. What I'm asking you to do is, when you step back from that disappointment or that frustration, look very closely and ask what the opportunity was in that situation for you. It might be directly related to that. It might be something obscure that isn't related to that. And sometimes you can do it within a day or two. Sometimes you're so wounded by what's going on, it takes months and months. And I'll give you an example of this. When I worked in London, I worked for a guy who was very controlling, and it was a funny thing. I worked 60 hours a week for a third of what I earned in Sydney, and I would list down all my readings for the week, and I'd bring in the list. And he always told me if I'd done seen 16 clients that week, he would say you've done 11. And we always had the same argument. So in the 5 months I worked there, he never got to the point where he stopped trying to pay me less, and I never got to the point where I let him get away with it. And I thought, this is an ugly thing to do. Anyway, I got fed up one day. I quietly slipped out for lunch and I went down to buy my ticket home. What I'd done was I'd taken a credit card, hadn't used it, so it had $2,000 credit on it, and I also put an extra $2,000 on top of that. So the card owed me $2,000 before I could even go into credit. And I went down to the travel agent. I booked a ticket back to Sydney, and the agent came back to me and said, look, they've told me that this card is it's a fraudulent use of this card, and I'm instructed to cut it up. And she cut my card into pieces in front of me. I went back to the office feeling like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have the money. I've got to now save the money to buy the ticket to get home. And as I walked in the office, the boss looked up from his newspaper and said, have a great lunch, did we? And he smiled. And then I realized there was nothing wrong with my card. He just didn't want to let me go. He was saying, I need this guy to be here, and it's inconvenient for him to leave now. And I was furious, and I thought, no, don't fight with this guy. If he can do this, he can do a lot worse to you. So what I did was, it took me about 2 days to calm down, and I asked him in meditation, can you bring my replacement? Can you send someone up the stairs to our office that says, I want a job, and I can say, yes, you're welcome, you can have mine. You know? And a few weeks after that, the boss left and went to, I think, Ibiza, and for a holiday with his wife, and another woman came to stay to read there. In that 2 weeks, she was the woman that taught me in 1991. So she was the one that wrote the Secret Door book about. She was just amazing, just incredible channel. And sure enough, 5 days after they were on holidays, a young guy turns up at the top of the stairs. He says, look, I'm a reader. Do you have any risk? I said, actually, let me take your details. The boss will call you. He gets back in about a week or so. He'll be calling you. Don't you worry about that. And sure enough, and then he called. The new guy came, and I left. You know, and I'd had saved up the money by that stage. And many years later, I was talking to my friend Christine. It was only actually the beginning of this year. I was talking to her. So that happened in 1991. That was 88 actually. And she said, he was very aware. He knew that you'd come to meet me and that I was going to teach you. He couldn't let you go home. So all this time, I'd been resentful of this guy had blocked me, and I thought it was a mean thing to do, but I didn't see the big picture. It was only when she said this in conversation I realized, whoa, he just did it in a callous way. He didn't do it with humility, but that was his style, And so it's funny how the opportunity goes missing and you don't see it for that many years, So I'm asking you to notice opportunity. Now you can do it with yourself. I had a client last week, and she came to me and she was very upset. She said, 5 years ago, you gave me a reading that the man of my dreams would come from Europe. He would be a soulmate, we'd have a great relationship, and he's just gone home. Like he's gone home and he hasn't contacted me. And so she's upset. And so she asks, will he come back? Will our relationship resume? I lay out the cards and no, it's not going to. Now, I can't tell her it's going to because you're wasting her life by giving her false hope. That's not a thing I like to do. I'm not brutal about it. If I say he's not coming back, but it's unlikely, I say, look, it's not likely. Then she gets upset. That's when she tells me she's had 5 other readers tell her he's coming back. I'm thinking, well, that's great, but has he come back? I said, when did you last hear from him? She said 15 months ago. Now, if a man hasn't written to you, phoned you, contacted you in any way, or responded to your communications in 15 months, he's probably not interested, And I could see his career was his focus, So I predict there's good things ahead for her future. There's a nice partner for her. She's going to buy a lovely house, and he's going to do a great garden with that house. She's going to buy a cottage in the country and rent it out to a select group of people that she trusted, and it really looked good. Now, that night I sent her the recording, and the recording bounced back. And I texted her to say, can you give me your written email address? I think that I must have a wrong address for you. And she wrote back saying, I don't want the recording. So I was wounded by that. I was really upset. I thought, I really tried hard in this reading to give you what I could see, to give you hope, but real hope, not it's all going to be fine. Because in the end, in 100 years from now, it is all going to be fine. None of us are going to be here. It will be fine in the big picture. And so it took me a while to find what the opportunity was. It was 2 things. Firstly, I had to ask myself, where do I yearn for opportunities that are unavailable for me while ignoring opportunities that are available? And I thought, I've got that bad habit. I've done that for years at a time in my life, And so she's reminding you what it looked like from the other side of the table. She was anxious. She hadn't slept well. She was starving herself. She looked weary, And I thought, wow, that's a really sad place to be. And when someone's on the outside trying to help you, that you can't see them. And then I had to look back at when I was feeling like that, who was on the outside trying to help me that I couldn't see? They throw you a life vest, you knock it away. Throw you a rope, you ignore it. Then you're not helping yourself to help yourself. You're not letting them help you. And the other thing was, are you focusing on where you can find your opportunities? You find your fulfillment instead of still on part of you, that habit of yearning for something that's not there. Make sense? So the other way you can apply it to yourself, is applying it to somebody else. So now I've started listening to clients in counseling and in readings, listening to try and find out what the opportunity was for her. And actually, that day I did it with this woman. I said, I've asked, and they said the opportunity for you is to find love and from places you least expect. And sources you least expect it was. And I said, now, when you first met him, did you expect it? She said, no, it was one of those online dating things. I didn't expect it. I'd had a lot of these that didn't work out. And it was just bang, it was just there. And it was just perfect from the moment he said hello, I said, well, that's what you need to. You need to open yourself again for unusual sources of love, nourishment, fulfillment, And so that was the opportunity for her. And it wasn't far from what the opportunity was for me either at the same time. So although I was put off by that initially, it was the gift. It was the gift of the week. That woman showed me something that I didn't see in myself. So I do this exercise every night. It's a 5-minute exercise. I review the day. What did I do today? Where were my missed opportunities? Now, I don't need to take them all. No one takes all their opportunities. But I need to know what they are. I need to know that I missed them. I need to know that I could have taken them if I wanted to. And as I started looking, it's incredible how many opportunities you just step around. They're an inconvenience, you know, because you can't see them for what they are. Someone's frustrating you, but actually they're strengthening something in you, or they're giving you skills that you'll use later on, you know, that sort of thing. So you need to identify past opportunities overlooked, discarded, unrecognized, and notice how they were concealed. If this type of argument often conceals this type of opportunity, go straight for the opportunity instantly when you get into that situation. And then I take note of what the opportunity was for the day, and I put it in my diary on my iPad, and off I go. So then every now and again I get to a night where I'm not sleepy and I don't want to go to sleep straight away. And so what I do is I scan back through the last 2 or 3 months to see what opportunities have been consistently coming up. Okay, the next one is assessing it for other people, and that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer. In fact, I've got my volunteer already. And what I'm going to do is she's going to tell me about an incident or a situation, and I want you to notice 2 things. I want you to notice what I'm asking, what I'm doing. I want you to notice what she's doing, and I want you to pay attention to where you think the opportunities are, because I might see 1 or 2 of them, you might see 4 or 5 of them. Okay, because I'm thinking, I'm aware that I'm being recorded, so I've got a lot of things going on in my head. And if you're just sitting and observing, you might have a bit more attention, pay attention to things, you know. So I'm asking you, make the most of this exercise, because then when I finish doing this, you're going to get a chance to try it for yourself. And I can tell you, it's changed me. In the last year, I found more opportunities than I found the 20 before that. You know, and I'm only just getting started. I think by the end of this year, I'm going to have mastered this opportunity finding, and it's just going to be incredible. In fact, I think it's a personal reading to offer people, a pure clairvoyance reading where I just sit down and I tell you the opportunities in your life, starting with what's available now, what's available for the next 20 years. And I know people would want that, because I would want that. I'd line up for that. Okay, so, all right, so Simona, are we ready? So what would you like to talk about today that's maybe a frustration or maybe a set of circumstances that you're not resolved with yet?
So basically, I've been working on a government contract for just over a year now, and an opportunity came up. I was on LinkedIn, and I asked about this job, and before I knew it, I got offered the interview the next day. And then I got offered the job pretty soon, like after 2 hours of, had my interview, then 2 hours, I got the phone call. And it was just really a strange one because, more often than not, when we get offered a job, we jump up and down for joy, but I just didn't feel this excitement. But at the same time, where I was in my current role, I've been feeling like it's been getting quite stale and I've not been stimulated, and it's been, I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's been things that have perhaps gone wrong. I get observed a lot in my job, and sometimes I feel that's quite subjective. What one person may see, another person may not. So it's a bit like teaching in some respects, where they do have criteria, but it does depend sometimes on the individual who's actually observing you on that day. So where I am currently, I'm not entirely happy. So it was almost tipping me over to actually accept that job offer, but I kind of held back. So yeah, that's where I am with it.
Okay, all right. So I'm hearing a few things in there. I'm hearing that you made an inquiry, but things went faster than you expected.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you feel that was too quick for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Has there been an offer or a situation in the past that seemed quick and then didn't turn out well for you? Have you got is this an echo of something that has an emotional resonance for you? That's maybe
kind of. Yeah, I went for an interview about a year and a half ago, and I was offered it on the day as well. And again, I didn't feel that excitement. I think it's a maturity thing in some respects, that I've sort of realised consciously that just because something's new, sometimes we get kind of addicted to the emotion, but the actual practicality of it can be different.
Okay, all right. Let me contrast it. Let me contrast the new with the old. So the new is swift, the old is stale. You said I feel stale. Okay, the old is opinions of other people making assessments about you that are not necessarily independent assessments. And so the impression I got with the old was some restrictions around that, a sense of a little bit of lack of freedom.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So looking for where the opportunity is, do you like to pace things? Do you like to be given a day or two to think things through?
I think so, yeah. I at least like to sleep on it, yeah.
Okay. And so when they offered you the job, you could have slept on it for 2 or 3 days, couldn't you?
Yeah, it was just the recruiter was quite pushy. He kind of wanted a response on the day, and I
Yeah.
felt naturally in my personality I couldn't be stern enough with him because he was pushing me, and I just felt
Okay.
a
All right.
weakness.
So you're good at resistance.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Sometimes resistance is a good thing to have. Okay, so is there anything around you for resistance in the past where people have pushed you into things and you've had to learn to resist, to be firm?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it's interesting because the recruiter's pushing because obviously he's getting a fee for the to close this issue straight away, but the company wasn't pushing, were they?
No, no.
Okay, so where's the opportunity for you in this? Where do you think it is?
I don't know, because it took me a very long time. It took up to 5 days of pillar to post, and in the end, I think the recruiter was sick of me because initially I said no, and then I sort of thought because I made then I got emotional and into my feelings and thought, but actually, do I need to move on because things aren't great for me in my current situation? So there was a
Okay.
lot of back and forth, really.
Okay. I'm wondering if possibly the opportunity in this situation is that you weren't sure about whether you're ready to leave, and this is going to crystallize whether you are ready to leave or not. It's not about the new job. It's about, am I ready to leave now? Have I reached the point? Is the party over for me at this job? In which case I stick around, I'm washing the dishes, or I move on while I've got good memories. So now that you had some time to think about it, are you ready to move on, or are you happy to stay on longer?
Um, I don't know. I know I'm probably being very awkward, but sorry,
No,
because
that's
it's a
okay.
job that I can do. That's the thing. It's not like I'm out of my depth with it, but it probably has reached a point of, becoming quite
Okay.
monotonous
Right.
and yeah.
So maybe in 6 months' time, you look back to this incident, this situation, and you'll identify the opportunity in that. But I think from where I sit, it's got to do with, am I ready to take this next step or not? And I see a hesitancy, but I also see the tension, a frustration building up to the point where you feel like you didn't say it like this, but it sounds a little bit like you're unappreciated where you are.
Yeah, they haven't seen my value. I mean, unfortunately for me, I was observed where there was a few technical glitches, and then that completely pulled down my grading of my when I was being observed. So yeah, and I
Yeah.
sort of thought, well, I've been here for a year, and I'm generally very good at my job, and I've always had no complaints and things like that. It was just a very much a bad day that had
Yeah.
led to this. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, are you able to value yourself even if they don't value you?
Yeah, I try to. It takes a lot of work, but I do have to go
Yeah,
into
it does.
that. Yeah.
It does. It absolutely does. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to leave it here, but I'm going to ask everyone else: did anyone see an opportunity in this that I missed and Simona's missed? Okay. Right.
I've
So,
got a question, Paul.
yep.
If I was doing that reading, something I would take from it is what she has on her T-shirt as a clue to me.
Oh yes, I didn't
It
even
says
see that.
misguided.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
that choice of that job move was a misguided choice, but just throwing that up.
That is brilliant. That is really good. Oh, I totally missed it. I didn't even look at it. That's interesting.
It's
Okay.
the feng shui eyes.
Yeah,
Paul,
that is great.
Paul, just a bit conscious of the time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So can we go into the breakout rooms now? And what I'll ask you to do is I'll put these steps up on the screen again in a minute. And it's steps are it's going to be 5 minutes each. You're going to decide who's going to be A and who's going to be B. If I'm A, I start speaking first, and I speak for 5 minutes about what my issue or what my situation is. What's causing me some frustration at the moment? You're listening for the opportunity. You spend 1 minute at the end of my 5 minutes telling me what the opportunity is. Then we reverse roles. You do the same, and I spend a minute at the end telling you what I see as your opportunity. And it's only my opinion. We're only learning. So remember, this is a chance to just try it out for yourself. And there's no right or wrong with this because A, no one's recording what you're doing in the breakout rooms, and B, we don't know that what you get is right or wrong. The other person will know it in time. Okay.
So Paul, I put those questions in the chat. Everybody's got them in the chat, and I'm going to put everybody in twos. And this just
look difficult, and it can look difficult, but actually with practice it gets easier. You know, it's just one of those things. Okay. I would just say thank you for listening to me today. And if anyone's got a question or two before we finish, I'm happy to answer those.
Wonderful. Well, Paul, I'm going to just say we're at the end. So if people would like to hang around and ask questions, which you're willing to take, we will do that. But for the point of view of coming to the end of the official session, I'm going to officially thank you and say, you know, so much knowledge there, you know, and so much practical. There's so much practical that we got from that. Speaking for myself, I enjoyed the session. I joined somebody, and your website. There's a lot of resources on there. Which is, do you want to just give your website so people can follow up with that?
It's just my name, www.paulfenton-smith.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. And what we've already agreed is that we send out the recording. And we've got 2 handouts that we will send to people. And Judy, do you want to say anything before and then we close the session from the recording point of view or whatever, and then we can take questions so people have the opportunity to leave, but at least we had an official end. Judy, do you want to share?
Thank you everyone for coming. We've got some fabulous events coming soon. We've got our drop-in, our monthly drop-in tomorrow. We've got a walk in London. I wish some of you who lived overseas could join us. We've got a walk in London next Saturday morning in Regent's Park. And at the end of this month, we have got an event about the moon. So please check our events on our website, and we'd love to see you again very soon. And huge thanks to Paul, who's going to carry on with questions, but huge thanks to you, Paul, because I have learned so much. And I know that I'm going to be listening to the recording again very soon. And you have so much knowledge, and I feel very hungry for more. So I hope you'll come back, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks.
That is wonderful. You. And I enjoyed my session too. And we actually, I'm the host of Conscious Cafe Skipton, and we have an event with Malcolm Stern, the beginning of April. Our first live event for some time, Remove Spotlight from Judy. So that is on the Conscious Cafe website. So Paul, we've got people still here hungry to share or ask questions. So I'm going to do a full view so I can see everybody and see whether there's a hand up for a question or a share of what that was like between 2 people. I certainly enjoyed my session. And yeah, does anybody want to share anything?
Law of attraction kind of sense. Can you just kind of explain that a little bit? Yeah, see how you get yourself there.
Basically, I like to have the choice. I like to know what's available to me. So basically, what if say you and I sat down at a cafe? So we've gone and found a really good cafe. We've got a window seat. We're sitting down. We're having a look at the menu. Now they come and take 4 pages out of your menu, and they give you just the last 2 pages. And you know I've got a 6-page menu, and you've got a 2-page menu. Wouldn't you feel a little bit like, wait a minute, that's not fair. Why has he got a 6-page menu? I've only got 2. Waiter, you know. And then you'll be saying,
true. But I'm very indecisive, so maybe 2 pages is better.
That's good. So then I'm ordering things you've never seen because they're not even on the menu. You know, I didn't know you could do that with strawberries. Well, Maurice knows me, and he likes it. I get the 6-page menu, you know. And so essentially, I'm not judging myself by missing opportunities, because all my life I've missed opportunities. Most people do. All I'm saying is by noticing them, I get better at it. The more I notice them afterwards, the more I start to notice them at the time. The shorter the time I can have between being uncentered because I feel frustrated by something and finding the opportunity in there, the quicker my life gets back to normal. You know?
So would you say it's kind of like a tool of reflection? You're kind of asking yourself, like, what did I learn? What can I take away from that?
Yeah,
Like,
but sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes, I'll give you an example. I'm on the phone, I'm waiting for someone to, I'm trying to get some IT help with some software, okay? So you're hearing your call is important to us, that's why we've got you on hold. There's the music, you know, girl from Ipanema, and on it goes. I look out the window, I see at the corner of the edge of the guttering there, a bird's making a nest in the guttering. So I know as soon as the rain starts, I'm going to have water pouring down on both sides of that guttering, inside to the house, outside. So I've got to get up there and get that out. So there's an opportunity. I'm on hold. It's got nothing to do with the phone call. I just happened to look out the window. My opportunity was, while you were on hold, you glanced out the window, you saw some work. Now I could argue, I have to get up a ladder. Oh no, it's going to kill me, you know, and that sort of thing. But the thing is, we've had a lot of rain recently, and we're talking a serious amount of rain. So I cannot afford to let the gutters get full of a bird's nest, you know. So sometimes the opportunity is nothing to do with the thing I think it is. It's something else entirely. If the same frustration keeps happening, I then have to look at what's my share in this dance. We're dancing. If you waltz and I tango, we can't dance. We've got a different dance. But like a bully needs a victim needs a bully, you know, and looking at both sides of it. So where is the opportunity for me so that I don't feel like life's happening to me? I feel like I'm missing choices. There are actually choices I could have, you know?
yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It's really focused on abundance. You know, people talk about abundance, and I said all that abundance stuff in the 80s, and I never believed it. You know, it was just a great word. It was a great word to use. Oh, we're going to be so abundant. Oh, yes, I can see it, you know. And then suddenly you realize you're already abundant. These opportunities are just invisible to you. And the moment they're not, suddenly you're nourished. There are opportunities you haven't seen.
But thank you. That helps clarify it. Definitely.
Okay. All right. So anyone else?
I was just going to say, Paul, the value, you know, when you put those questions in, I think the value is simply, there's the power in the question. The question is more powerful than the answer, because once you ask that question, then
your brain starts working. Your brain starts thinking.
You'll have more than one answer. So just having that, you know, you said you've taken that on as a discipline, as a routine. Just asking that question and seeing what comes up is so valuable, rather than what did I do today, and then assess information, but not questioning it. So I think that just, you know, asking that question is so powerful. It's a great thing. Let's see on the global view if anybody else wants to ask a question or make a comment about the dialogue that they had. Anybody want to share anything? I wonder if the lady I shared with is still here, because we had, oh, Sarah's got a comment.
I've got a comment. I actually, for some reason, didn't get placed into a twosome, and I didn't know how to contact you, etc., etc. And I tried to contact Judy. Anyway, the whole thing, it passed without me being in a, and I felt a bit sorry for myself. But I kind of used the space to do just a few breathing exercises and some singing exercises and stuff. And and I find some of these breathing exercises and singing exercises quite boring, so I put off doing them. So I thought, well, you know, I might as well do them now. You know,
so it was your opportunity. You made the most of it.
Well, yeah, exactly. A bit like you with the noticing the nest in the guttering. I mean, obviously, that's more serious. You know, the consequences of not doing that is more serious than me not doing my singing exercises or breathe. But you know, when life hands you a little lemon, you know, so it was kind of useful. Yeah,